Well, it's billed as a marquee game at the World Juniors. Canada and Russia renewing their classic rivalry. With more on this, Victor Finley joins us, and turning out to be a terrible game for this country in more ways than one.
Well, every time Canada and Russia play, there's always so much history to it. And, well, now we have another game for the history books, although this one won't look too kindly on Team Canada because they lose this game in more ways than one. As far as the score perspective goes, not a good result. They lose 6-0. They get shut out the World Juniors for the first time since 1998. The Russians explode out of the gate with 3 goals and would not look back from there. So it's Canada's worst loss ever at the World Juniors, but they also lose one of their star players right here. Alexis Lafreniere, midway through the second period, he's expected to go #1 overall this year in the NHL entry draft. He goes down with a nasty-looking injury, comes right in here on the Russian net and jams his left knee and was down in serious pain, left the game, did not return. However, early indications are after an MRI, this injury may not be as bad as it looks. Now, some controversy as well here. During the Russian national anthem, Russia captain Grigory Denisenko gets the attention of the officials. Canada's captain Barrett Hayton did not take his helmet off for the national anthem, which is customary for international hockey. Denisenko does not shake Hayton's hand. There are motions towards his head. A number of other Russians refused to shake the Canadian captain's hand as well. And Barrett Hayton did make a statement as well after this game saying, "I'm sorry for leaving my helmet on during the Russian national anthem following today's game, and I apologize to the Russian team and its fans. As a leader on this team, I was trying to process the game and evaluate how we can regroup. I was lost in the moment." And a tough moment it was for Team Canada, who lose this game 6-0. They do get a day, John, to regroup before they play the Germans tomorrow.
But they're not out. They have a chance to continue on through this.
They can still win the group if they win their next 2 games as well.
Okay, thanks, Victor. Well, for more on Canada's performance, we've reached out to Andrew Podniks, and he's in Ostrava, the Czech Republic. He's a hockey historian and writer for the International Ice Hockey Federation. And in full disclosure, Andrew and I went to an institution of higher learning together many, many years ago. Andrew, I want to thank you for joining us. As you heard there, ranker over Canadian captain Barrett Hayton for not taking his helmet off during the Russian national anthem. How big of a faux pas is this?
Well, I mean, it's a breach of protocol for sure, and you just sort of have to believe him when he said he was lost in the moment, and you move on. You can't go back and take your helmet off, yesterday. So he apologized, and I think that's all you can do, and obviously it shouldn't happen again.
Does this say something about the pressure that are on these young men at this point in their career and in a game like this?
I don't think the keeping his helmet on directly has to do with any pressure, but I mean, there is tremendous pressure on these guys, especially the Canadians, because of the NHL on the draft and the TSN coverage. And, in the game last night, there were 780 fans as part of a tour group that came over. So, I mean, it's the importance is tremendous for these guys.
Let's talk about that game, the 6-0 loss. What went wrong for Canada, do you think?
I mean, that early shot that Dawes bobbled and puck fell back into the net, it was just a terrible start and a terrible goal to allow. And Dawes just didn't particularly play very well. And I think he should have been pulled after the third goal when the game was still reasonably in hand and they could have foreseeably come back and still possibly won the game. But 4-0 midway through the second period, they really didn't have a chance at that point. So I think maybe Dale Hunter should have pulled him a little earlier, and then the rest of the team just didn't play particularly well. And then when Lafreniere went down with the injury, the offense wasn't able to pick up the slack.
Yeah, now concerns about Lafreniere and that knee. It looked painful, may not be that debilitating in the long run, but how big is a loss, even for a game or two, is he to the team?
Well, I mean, it's a big loss just in the sense if you look at the first game, he was in on 4 of the 5 goals. And the second game, they were shut out when he missed 2/3 of the game. So obviously, he's an important part of the offense. I think maybe you also have to look at the bigger picture. He had an injury before the tournament, before coming over. And this is his draft year. And it didn't really look like a particularly light injury, so I'd be surprised if he plays against Germany, and maybe at all. I guess it depends how he recovers and the swelling and what the MRI shows, but clearly he's an important part of the offense.
As you say, a draft coming up for him. What is the strategy involved here for players and presumably the people behind them? With an injury like this, does he try to get it back together to play for the rest of the tournament, or does he simply back away and want to get ready for that draft?
No, in his case, he doesn't have to. I mean, different players have different sort of positions going into the draft, and he's supposed to be the number one overall. If he's number one or number two, it doesn't really matter. The fact is, he's going to go very high in the draft. He doesn't need to play. He doesn't need to prove himself. Everybody knows what he can do. And there are other players who are maybe on the bubble, maybe get drafted, maybe not, maybe a first round, maybe a seventh round, you don't know. So they're in a more precarious position, or they have more to prove at this tournament. But for Lafreniere, he doesn't have to play just to show what he can do.
So would he be advised to maybe sit this out to make sure he's healthy for his NHL career?
Again, you have to look at the knee, look at the swelling or what the injury is. But certainly, I think he would be advised to be more cautious than gambling on playing if it's a little tender, if it's not 100%.
Okay, you're there. You're watching the team. How do you rate Canada's chances in this tournament going forward?
Well, less than I did 24 hours ago. They had a really good game against the U.S. to start, and obviously last night. You can also look at last night and just say, everything went right for Russia. They scored some goals that they probably wouldn't score on another night, and Canada just couldn't do anything right, which is maybe kind of a good thing. You just forget about it and move on to the next game. Their chances are still pretty good. They're in a very tough group here. The Group A and the other venue is a lot, I think, easier. So if they can position themselves well and come out of this group strong, then I think they've got a great chance to at least go to the medal games.